Previous session talked about splitting the half an hour into blocks of 10, 10, and 10. I mean, that's important for all of us to follow. I think some of you were not there in the previous session. First 10 minutes for agreement, the next session for next 10 minutes for exploration, the next 10 for sort of the ending, and then the finalizing your actions, right? So it's good to, especially in these sort of very short 30-minute sort of conversations, it's good to have that sort of breakdown very clearly in place. Next is that when you, I think the first session I had, we observed people talking about metaphors. So when we talk about metaphors, it's good to explore metaphors, not just asking them what does it mean, but then explore metaphors metaphorically in that sense, right? He might have thought about something when I talk. In fact, Sundar talked about a short runway, right? Great metaphor, but then you can explore what the metaphor is all about, right? Or probably say if you had a longer runway, what would you have done, right? So just to flip the coin back and say that, okay, so what would happen if the reverse would be there, right? Next is about curiosity. I think in the session I had earlier, it's important to ask questions which are curious from a coach's perspective, right? Again, I was telling Sundar earlier, the book we have this week is Art of Laser Focus Coaching, wherein Marian Franklin talks about difference between coaching curiosity and no-see curiosity. No-see is purely from a coach's perspective, right? So ensure that when you ask questions, the questions are of curiosity from a coach's perspective, right? Also, I know a common thing also noticed earlier, again, not this session, I mean, one this session, earlier also, one this earlier sessions was that the 3.4 should come in the first half, at least, if not the first 10 minutes, in case you're taking a 10-minute break, 10-minute, this one, a first half, the 3.4 question should come there, because only from there does exploration begin. And then from then on, you finish, go to your learnings and actions. Okay, I think they had only these comments.
Thanks, Srinath. So I'll just pick up from where you left that thread, and I want to also talk about 3.4. I observed a similar thing. So when you ask the question, what comes in your way for something, I'm assuming you meant that as 3.4. But when you ask what comes in your way, you're already started on some kind of an exploration. What 3.4 is all about is identifying what they want to explore in terms of that you need to just become aware of. It may not be something in the way at all. Okay. So when we say what is coming in the way, it becomes problem solving, and it becomes about obstacles, and it doesn't align then to maximizing potential somehow, because maximizing potential is also about using opportunities. It's not only about dealing with challenges. And then much later, is there anything else within you want to resolve? I didn't understand what was the meaning of that question much later. And somewhere, I don't know, Srinath, if you're sensing in JL, there is a pattern that is over here, I'm observing, that people are asking this question, is there something within you need to resolve? I don't know from where that language is coming somehow, The marker is not that. So somewhere somebody has put in that interpretation, somebody has used it, and then everybody else is copying it. So what I'm urging everyone to do is, you have a look at the markers, you have a look at what ICF is saying, and then put your spin on it, your interpretation, your language to it. Please do not use everybody, each other's language out of context. It doesn't work. Because is there anything within you that you need to resolve? The answer will be no. Or even if I take it as open-ended, is there anything within you that you need to resolve? Yeah, I need to resolve A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, but all that will happen outside the session. No, we're talking about what is it that we need to resolve or address in the session so that we can accomplish the goal of the session. It is all in the session, not outside the session. Yeah. So I just wanted to close on that, Srinath. Thanks for bringing that up. Another thing which very interestingly you talked about is nosy curiosity versus whatever curiosity. So when we ask this question, tell me more about it, for instance. In whose interest are we asking this question? Is it because it's my need as a coach to know more? Or is it because I want my client to say more so that they know more about it for themselves? Then how would we word it? Why is there a need for them to tell me more about it? Yeah, so I don't know what the intentions might be, but these are not words that come out automatically. So you have to look at what's behind the words that we are uttering, or what is behind the questions we are asking. Like we look at goal behind the goal. Another thing is, again and again, I'm going to say it all the time. Please be focused on the person while the person is focused on their problem. There is a tendency to problem solve all the time. Then there is a tendency to believe that what the client wants is really what they want. What if they want the opposite? So in the session I was in, my feedback was, when the client comes in, they come in because they are stuck, right? Yes or no? They are stuck. Now, in a position of stuckness, we do not experience, even if there are choices, we don't either see them or we don't experience them as choices. So in a session, our job is to have the client open themselves up to more choices than what they came in with. And for that, if we have to do the opposite of what they want, so be it. So if I want to say, for instance, I want to start on this particular habit, I want to make this particular thing a habit, I might want to ask them, what for you want to make it a habit? What will happen if you don't make it a habit? Suppose you don't make it a habit. Now that is a choice which they have not seen. Right? So make sure that the conversation opens up more possibilities for them than they came in with, because that is what will make them more resourceful. And that is our objective. Our objective is to send them out more resourceful than they came in, than how they came in. All right. And so that will happen only when we are not focused on their problem, while their attention is always going to be on their problem. Our focus should be on them. And the last bit I had was no action planning before learning. Somehow, I don't know, I've been noticing this also, that, okay, so what will you do? What will you do? What will you do? And what have you learned in this session about yourself? What have you learned in this session about the situation? Then what actions are we taking? Actions will be based on new learning, because new learning will lead to new actions. Old learning will lead to old actions. Even if I'm planning the same actions, if I'm planning the same actions with a new awareness, then they are likely to give a different result than what they have given so far. Yeah. So always explore learning and awareness and then anchor that through actions. Yeah, that's what I had. Thank you. I'm not sure how do we test for, how do we test for trust and safety? Because that is something the client will have to be asked.
Rekha. Yeah, Jay and all of us.
I think goal setting, both of you spoke in terms of time allotted. It was done well. So both the sessions that I observed, but are we going deep enough is something which we need to also see, right? So are we able to clearly establish what the goal is? Time is limited, which we understand, but given that limited time, what we have, what are we going to achieve in that, right? So are we able to get that clarity is something which we need to also look at. And 3.2, the measure of success, more transactional. I think that's what I felt, right? So it's how do we know that we're getting what we want from this session? Somewhere I feel that we're not looking at if they say that this is how it will look to me if I'm able to achieve in this session. So how would that make you feel, right? So that's one thing which we can anchor on at that place. Right, so the feelings is what will feelings and emotions, those are important elements, otherwise we are still at the thinking level. If we're able to get that in 3.2, then maybe some more deeper conversation, it just opens up the gate for some more deeper conversation because you're getting into the feelings part, right? So that's, I felt that as an opportunity. And 3.4, what you said, Rekha, I think I also observed that, right? So what needs to be addressed within yourself, it can be anything, right? So what's stopping or what's coming in the way or what's not allowing you to achieve what you want to achieve in this session need not be about an individual, right? So it could be anything. Right? So when we say that within yourself, then the focus it's all about that individual. That's where it goes. And resistance might start coming in, right? So like what Rekha said, I don't have anything to resolve, then what do we do next? Right? So that's one thing. On the learning part, I felt not just in this session, but also in some of the recordings, what I'm seeing is that are you learning anything newly from this session? The word newly is kind of stressed, right? So just stay with the question of what are you learning about yourself or what are you learning about situation? So it need not necessarily be new, but it could be something that they are able to find out in that session. Maybe something was at the surface level, they didn't know it's coming up. They're able to catch it now. So that could also add value, right? So, but when we coin the word or use the word saying newly, then they start thinking that they need to think of something else newly, right? So maybe we never know what's going to add value to them, right? So staying with the question of what are you learning about yourself in this session is good enough. Then it gives them adequate space to think about it and then come up with what they want to share, right? And other than that, I think summarizing was done well. Sessions that I observed, so succinctly summarizing so that I could see, and we are observing something like your eyes are lit up. That was observed, but we need to follow it up, asking that what did that mean, right? So somewhere we are observing and then we are concluding ourselves. Okay, I observed it, then we are leaving it there, but that doesn't serve the client, right? So how can we build on that? Ask them what did they experience at that moment, what made their eyes to lit up, right? So that again opens up. So we get into the who part. These are the opportunities where we can get much more deeper than where we are. And some of the adjectives which we are using, beautiful, amazing, um, maybe it's natural way of saying that I'm listening, right? So, but I think as coaches, if we move beyond those words, it's all about picking those emotions, feelings, and how do we build on the conversation? Are we able to make them see something different than what they had seen? So these are the places where we can add value rather than just using these words and then acknowledging that they are doing well, right? So that's another thing which again puts us on a pedestal when we use those kind of words. And within the peer group, we are aware of it, but people when we coach outside, right? So there is a natural tendency for them to look for validation from the coach. Using these words will just put us in a more vulnerable position, right? So it's difficult for us to stay away from that. So that's one thing which I wanted to point out. Yeah, I think these are my observations.
Thanks,
Good
Jane.
point.
I
Thank you.
just want to talk about that the adjectives bit also. My another perspective is, of course, it puts us on pedestal on, but I'm also thinking from a client's perspective, if you are saying amazing, beautiful, wonderful, but I'm not feeling that inside me, then I'm going to become very suspicious about you saying, why are you saying all these things? These are not correct. I'm not feeling like that. So you're buttering me up or you're praising me simply and all, and I actually might not trust you after that. Or I might think, oh, my coach uses words very loosely. I can't trust what the coach is saying. So be careful. If your client expresses it, then you can say whatever. But if your client has not said anything, you simply saying, and at least I don't know, lately I have not seen, but earlier I had observed a horrendous conversation where the client was sharing something very sorrowful and deep, and the client was feeling very sad, and the coach went on saying, brilliant, wonderful, fantastic. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Are you even listening to your client? It's very obvious that you're not listening when you're using these words very loosely, right? Yeah. Thanks for that, Jian.
Maybe, yeah, just because about these adjectives and all, I just wanted to ask that sometimes it is also used to resonate with the feeling, or like you're seeing that this is something deep has happened, or like celebrating the client. So what can be the other ways, or uh, something, how to react? Sometimes it becomes, right, like you are feeling that truly that, wow, this is sounding beautiful to me, but then if we have to refrain from that adjectives and all.
That's a good question, because on the flip side, if the client is happy and celebratory and you're stone-faced, right, that can also make the client feel jittery and lose trust. Since the focus of session today is trust, I'm focusing on that. What I would do, Anupama, if I'm seeing the client very happy and celebratory, I would say, so much happiness, what is happening? I would also get excited, and I would use language like that, or I would use my body. I don't have to use an adjective. Or I might express my feeling as my feeling and ask them what they are feeling.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always safe to say how you're feeling, right? That's the truth. But when we say something about them, then we should be careful.
Yes.
Does that make it better?
Yeah, and it's thank you, JL and Rekha, because these are the finer nuances, right? We don't even realize.
Yeah.
This is helping a lot. Thank you for this.
And I think in some situations, right? So coaches have that belief that these are the ways through which we can listen, right? So initial tendency for us is that when I say and listen, then I need to use yeah, I need to say some words in between. That's what listening to us. So we're trying to move away from that through coaching, right? So then adjectives is also one such thing which comes in our way. We think that it's listening, but we don't need to demonstrate our listening only through those words, adjectives, right? That's where we elevate ourselves to better presence, and how do we listen better, and that's the way we progress.
Thank you so much, Jay and Rekha. Thank
Thank
you all
you.
very
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. I think that was a
Bye,
great
everyone.
session today. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.